dispel some myths, rumors, things. I'm not really sure what you want to call it. Referring to that video I made the other day. I made that video probably a week before I ever put it out. I really wasn't even worried about it. And then all of a sudden all this stuff came up about it, about banning it. And everyone started making these deals. And I'm like, that's funny that I actually made this video before all this. Because I kind of heard some rumblings anyways. That's not what this video about. This video is about all the comments. I'm reading all the comments. I got them right here, and I've been reading them, and I pay it. I don't watch other people's videos. What I do is I like to read comments from all the people. And I've always done that. And the reason is because the comments let me know pretty much the misinformation that's out there. Because if I hear a lot of, I get two things. I get the pulse of what's going on. So I get to hear what people are kind of upset about or don't like or whatever, because a lot of things that people get upset about, I definitely don't necessarily agree with. I'm not worried about it a bit. Like every time there's a ton of topics that I hear the same boring thing over and over again from people. And to be honest with you, most of the time they're wrong. They have no idea. They're just regurgitating things that they've heard in the past. They have no idea. It sounds good to them, so they just go with it. And so I'm here to kind of talk about some of the things that I hear. A lot of these comments aren't wrong. A lot of it's the pulse of what they hear, okay? And they actually do believe this. And so the first comment I'm going to talk about, I do agree with. I 100% agree with. A lot of people don't like LiveScope. They're not really worried about LiveScope in general, but we're all fans of fishing. I don't watch very much fishing now, like on TV or videos. I watch almost no YouTube stuff. I'll turn on elite events and stuff like the Bassmaster events if it's a lake that I'm interested in, right? Or if my buddy's doing good. But other than that, I don't, or if I hear about something going on in an event that's really cool. But for the most part, I don't. I don't, I'm usually fishing tournaments when they're going on, so I don't have an opportunity to watch it. They don't like that, they think it's boring. And 100% it is boring. It's not good. And I'm gonna explain why it's not good, and they'll not fix it, and they won't fix it. I'm telling you they won't fix it, and I'm gonna explain why. Everyone says that there's a way to fix it, and but I'm gonna tell you the truth about why it will never happen. And there's two parts to this, okay? The main suggestion that people say is like, hey, do a split screen. So show the graph and then show the person, okay? How do I say this? It's not gonna work for a couple of reasons. One, it's not gonna be that interesting because they're gonna show that, and they're gonna show, expect smallmouth, different. Smallmouth are kind of stupid, and sometimes they'll eat. These other lakes, they might throw it like 30 of them before one eats it, okay? And the problem with that is that they're not really, you have to talk through this stuff. Fishing is such a different sport. It is, I don't even know what the percentage is, and I'm not even gonna try to say. Every other sport that's out there, 90% of us watch it for the entertainment value. Fishing is not like that. And there's a couple of reasons it's not like that. I mean, this is really in depth, but there's a couple of reasons fishing is not like that. It used to be almost a lot more entertainment. The reason it was entertainment was because we didn't know what was going on. We weren't watching live. They made a story. A lot like my videos that I do of my deep water videos, my deep water series or Alabama water series, or I'm about to do this Okie or red dirt water series. I know the outcome, and so I know the story that goes along with it. And so you watch and follow the story. You might know the very end result, but you don't know what goes on through, like you're interested, and you can't wait to see what's about to happen, and the different paths and all the forks in the road, and which one am I gonna take? right? Things pop up out of that you never saw coming. It's entertainment. There's a learning value to it. There's all kinds of things wrapped up in that story. Well, here there's no story, right? You're watching it live. So yeah, you don't really know what's about to happen, but you know who's going to win. So it's so much more of a learning experience right now. No one's talking though. And I know why they're not talking. There's two reasons. One, I don't know if too many of them really want to talk about what they're doing. That's just flat out. I'm going to say it. I mean, there are times where I don't want to talk about things on YouTube. I just don't. Some things I don't share for whatever reason. I think that's going on with the elites. I don't have a problem with it. I understand it. They don't have to share it. They're not required to. They can ask them to, but they don't have to. Okay? Y'all might not like it, but nowhere in any like, here's the crazy part. It's not like they're going to get paid more. They're going to give away all this information for free, and it's going to cost them in the long run. Can't blame them. Okay? So they don't have to share what their experiences are, or what they're learning, or what they're seeing on the screen. Now, some guys say, oh, they don't mind doing it. Maybe, right? But here's the other side. LiveScope, I always say it like this. In the past, if you watch some guy fish, and he's just got his jig on, and he's out deep, and he throws it out there, right? He throws it out there like this, and it hits the water. And he's got like 10 seconds before it hits the bottom. All right, guys, what I'm doing is I'm throwing this jig out here on bottom. I'm dragging it across. There's like a little break, and he starts explaining what's going on. And he's talking to you. He's engaging to you, just like I am now, while that jig's falling on the ground. And then he's doing this. And he might look down at the screen, but the screen's not live. It's live underneath his boat, but not where he's casting. He's just got to make sure he's in the same spot. He's got everything lined up, and he's just dragging. He doesn't have to look at his rod and reel. He doesn't have to look at anything around him. He can feel a bite. So he can talk just like this, like I am to the camera. And you can talk and engage with the audience who's watching. You can do that with almost all sorts of fishing. We grew up doing it, right? And when I say that, we grew up talking and fishing at the same time. Now, the problem with LiveScope is that you don't have 1 second to like look away. You don't. Like, you have to have your head down and engaged on that screen, or you might miss something just for a split second. So you can't look up and do this and talk to the camera. You can't. And so, and listen, I'm not upset about that. I'm saying you literally can't do this. And so you can't change what's already out there. That's what you have to do. You're asking guys to teach. This is the difference between YouTube and this stuff. YouTube can kind of stop fishing for a while, talk to you, do all these different things. Dude, they are fishing for 100 grand. They're fishing for their livelihoods. And why would they? I mean, it makes no sense for them to do that. Now, from a viewer's perspective, it's horrible. It really is. And that's just the way it's gone. And so, even if you put that double screen on there, now you still remember, the guy has to talk you through it. If he doesn't talk you through it and you see the screen and you see him fishing, you're gonna get a little bit, but very little, very little. And the only thing I can say that, because I did read some comments and they talk about watching the guy sight fish. Let me tell you something. Me sight fishing is I could do it every day, all day, every single day of the year. I could do it. I never get tired. 12 hours a day, never get tired of it. Love it. If you're watching me sight fish, most boring thing in the world. I don't put many sight fishing videos out there because they're pointless. Even if I talk you through what I'm doing, it's pointless. It's irrelevant. If you get in my boat with me while I do it, to this day, it's 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Everyone that's ever been in my boat absolutely loves everything about it. They love watching it. They think this is the most incredible thing in the world. They have to see in the water what I'm talking about. You have to. It's the same thing with LiveScope. You have to be able to be there, watch everything else around it, and then them talk to you about it right then and there. Just watching the screen is irrelevant. It's not going to help that much, I promise. So they're in a dilemma. That's their dilemma. That's the number one thing. That's why I think that they might ban it, because it's not going to get any better and the viewership's going to get worse. It just is, and I don't blame them for that. And you can't blame the fishermen. Listen, a buddy of mine made a great point, and he said this: fishermen are just fishermen. They're going to do whatever it takes to catch fish and do good. Sometimes they even do things the wrong way. Imagine that. But for the most part, what his point was is, you give some guy more technology, he's going to get it. You let them push the boundaries of that technology and get, two technologies better than one, they're going to get it. They're going to do everything in their power to keep evolving with the sport. Okay? I don't think anyone realized that this was going to look bad on TV, but it does. It really does. It's fun in real life. It's fun when you're there, but it's not when you're watching it. That's the problem. Now, here's the other problem. Everyone says, oh, do the split screen. There's been two different comments. One, that they're never going to ban it because they're in bed with the companies that do all this, you know, the electronic companies. I don't know if they're making that much money off of them. And two, that let's just do the split screen. We do realize there are certain companies sponsored by certain electronic companies and electronic companies aren't just electronic companies. They have other stuff involved, trolling motors, whatever else it might be. A lot of those companies, well, the one company who's probably paying you the most doesn't want to show a whole bunch of other people's products the whole time. Now, just like every product, there's products better than others. Okay? There's a problem too. Because if you start doing that, people are going to be able to tell which product is better than others. So, there's a product out there, I think, right now that's head and shoulders above everyone else. I'm just going to say, like, I think Garmin's better than everything else. If that's not your sponsor, it puts you in a tight spot. And I'm just telling you, you put up two screens and one's Garmin and one's, you know, a couple are different. Everyone's going to be like, oh man, that Garmin looks a lot different. So they're in a bind. They're in a bind. And that's where I think the problem lies, that it's not so much that they don't want to do the split screen. I think there's pressure not to. And it might just be easier to get rid of all of it if they don't have to worry about it. I think that's the problem. I don't think they're worried. Here's the thing. They banned the Alabama rig. I don't remember Alabama rig sales going down. They're not going to go down, right? And when I say ban it, they're not going to ban LiveScope like no one can use LiveScope anymore. Dude, if you're going out and catching 100 fish on an Alabama rig, do you care if I don't care if one single elite's not throwing it, right? You're gonna go pick one up and throw it. Who cares if they ban it on tour? What, I'm gonna stop fishing it? Y'all are gonna, like, anyone that has it's not gonna fish anymore? No, it's already out there. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt. If someone really wants it, watching it on TV is not going to all of a sudden make you go get it. Okay, there's enough videos, there's enough things out there. We're not living in 1980s anymore. Go get online, Google something. You can go get every freaking video you ever wanted about LiveScope you ever wanted. That shouldn't hurt them one bit. Limiting things, like I said before, I mean, I'm sure a lot of motor companies wish we were all driving freaking motors with 600 horsepower. It's not hurting their motor sales that were freaking limited to a 250. In the elites, I see guys with 300s all the time. It's not hurting that. My point is at this point in time, it's not going to hurt anything. I will say one thing too. I do believe it's hurting the bait business. I believe I believe it's hurting baits, and they're not going to sell as many of the other baits that are working. I think over time it'll be, because finesse fishing doesn't sell a lot of like baits. Like, you don't, it's finesse fishing. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying anything's wrong with it, but LiveScope's turned out to be more finesse stuff than a lot of other bait. Like, you know, it is what it is. And I will say this, it's true. It's not, there's a whole other deal about the smallmouth, you know, and up north and them chasing smallmouth, and that it's boring to watch. I'll agree. I don't watch it as much because, but smallmouth fishing might be more fun because you're out there catching them. But the problem is everyone's doing the same thing. Like, I can only watch 4,000 smallmouth get caught on a drop shot. Dude, when I'm largemouth fishing, some guy's freaking spinner baiting here, and some guy's cranking over here and throwing a hair jig here, and some guy's frogging over here. There's a lot of different things going on. But when you see for 3 tournaments in a row, the same 2 to 3 rigs from every single fish catch, you're like, yeah, it's good. They eat a drop shot. I get it, right? There's not much variety. And I'm sorry, like, look at this one. It's a 4 1/4 over this 4-pounder. Look, I'll catch 4-pounders all day long. It's freaking awesome. But if you're just watching it and like, oh, it's a big one, it's a 4 1/2, not a 4 1/4. It looks the same to me. I do it a bunch, right? There's a difference between when a guy is out there and Jason Christie catches a freaking 9.4 on a frog, and you're like, what? You know, I mean, I'm not knocking the smallmouth deal. I'm just, like I said, a lot of the comments are on the viewership. Oh, I guess there's one other thing too. There's this whole deal about, these are the ones I really like. This is the group that it gets offended. I think this is the group that gets offended by sight fishermen. It gets, I mean, if you've ever caught a fish and put them in a live well, they get offended. This is this group I'm talking about. There's a group out there that thinks that we're disturbing them, and they need a resting place. What? How do we know this? Who's ever done a study that said they're out there swimming around and they need this time to rest, and they need to get not pressured from fishermen? There are millions of fish out there swimming around that still don't get messed with by fishermen. Millions. Trust me, they can go get somewhere and not get messed with. They also don't have to bite your bait. So, and I've also realized on LiveScope, guess what? You know what fish are? Opportunistic. I said that right. Dude, if a bait falls in front of them while they're out there wandering around, they're eating. I don't know if fish look like they're eating 24 hours a day, in my opinion. Now that I have LiveScope, it looks like a fish could go after something 24 hours. There's times when he might go really after something. But for the most part, if a freaking stupid crawfish and it's out there chilling around, just chilling, whatever, or a minnow or a shad comes wandering by a little injured, trust me, it's not like, hey man, I'm resting out here. You know, it's my rest day. I'm taking a little siesta. You know, I don't care that the shad's gonna go right by my mouth. I'm not gonna eat it. No. So I don't know where, like, it just sounds good. And they want to say it because I have no idea. They heard it somewhere and they're like, hey, it must be true that fish need this downtime or they're gonna die. And we gotta protect our fisheries. No. I don't even, just because someone says something and you heard it somewhere doesn't make it true, okay? Just because it sounds good, like, oh yeah, fish need this rest time. Okay, well, I guess, right? They're not people, okay? They're out there in the water. They don't have beds. They're not going down to the bottom of a lake and freaking pulling their covers over them and sleeping at night, and they need that time. They're not freaking these little, you know, people working, right? They're like, hey man, I need 15 minutes to calm down so I can do a better job at work. They're not those people. They're just fish, guys. Don't make them to be more than what they are. They're fish. They're out there. If they had time to relax, it's a good way that they'll die. okay? It's Mother Nature. Nature will kill you faster than we will. They don't have time to rest and not worry about, trust me, they got a lot more bigger things to worry about. They don't eat, they die. They're worrying about eating and worrying about things their whole life. Okay, so they don't need rest time or alone time to gather their thoughts. Now that went off a little bit more rantic than I thought. Oh well. That's what I got on it. I don't think I'm done because I'm gonna get more comments. And because like I said, I just wanted to kind of spell out some of the things that I've seen that I don't think are being talked about. And I think some anglers don't want to because they're put in tight spots with sponsorships and things like that. And Bass sure isn't gonna talk about that. And companies sure aren't gonna talk about that. So, you know, will they ban it? Man, I still don't know, man. I'm still 50-50 on the thing. I think they're in a lose-lose. I will say that. It's not gonna hurt. I don't know what it would hurt. I still haven't figured out what it would hurt if they did ban it. Other than some feelings. I don't know if it's not gonna hurt the electronics. Like LiveScope's here to stay. Like it ain't gonna hurt it. What would it hurt? The viewership's gonna go up. I really do believe it. Might hurt some fishermen. Might hurt some pocketbooks of fishermen that might not catch them as good. I don't know. I'm interested. I'm curious. It ain't gonna affect me, I don't think. It might affect me in the opens. Because I think if they like, that's the only thing is if Bassmaster or BPT, if either one, MLF, if they ban it, I assume if Bassmaster bans it, it'll be banned in the opens. MLF has a different strategy, and because the Alabama rig is not allowed in BPT, but it's allowed in BFLs and Toyotas. So there are some things that they have kept, and you got co-anglers and things like that. So I mean, and you have a bigger, don't want to say grassroots, but MLF has invitations, Toyotas, BFLs, TBF, like their branch is longer, so they're banning it over a giant spectrum, where Bass is only banning it to the elites, to that 100 guys, and maybe some open guys, because I would assume they'd have to ban it in the opens as well. That's the only thing. That's the only thing where I could see, I don't know what they would do. So it would affect me in those, but I fish a lot of other stuff. I don't think they're gonna ban it in team, like your local stuff. And a little tournament circuit here and there might, you know, ones that don't, like if guys complain enough. But I don't think there's a lot of complaining going on about it. They complain about it, but I don't think it's enough to where, I don't think people know whether guys are winning off LiveScope or not. They might be. I'm just saying, people don't know. And so they're, you know, it's like, it is what it is. So I could see some little smaller trails doing it, but I don't think that helps. I don't think it's going to help them. I've learned a long time ago, you hear too much about, if you follow too much about the guys complaining and do everything they tell you to do, those guys end up usually hurting you rather than helping you. I'm just gonna say that. From what I've seen in tournament trails, when a tournament trail listens to the few complaining, it usually hurts their trail if they fall victim to that, because usually most guys usually like, hey man, they just want a trail they can go fish that they trust and things like that. That's a whole nother story. All right. I'd like to say I'm done with this, but I promise you, this won't be the last. We'll have more. All right. See you guys.